Dear viewers, welcome to this show POWERchat, Nepal's only TV talk show in English discussing developments since 2016. Through this episode tonight, we are discussing about Nepal's geopolitics and international security, with particular focus on its impact into Nepal's development process. And I am joined tonight by Dr. Umesh Kumar Bhattarai, an analyst, also a Brigadier General, retired of Nepal Army. Let's talk. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bhattarai.
Thank you, sir.
How have you been?
It's good, going on well.
Well, you served in Nepal Army and retired a few years ago. And in the current days, you have been into media and writing through your analysis, basically on Nepal's geopolitics and international security issue. I'd like to start with asking a very general overview, your observation about Nepal's politics. Do you consider it as a fragile? Nepal's politics is in transition. Would you agree on that statement?
No, we are as a state more than 299 years. Today is King Prithvi Narayan's birthday also. We are celebrating National Unification Day. Luckily, we are on that day. We are talking about stability and governance and after overall development of the nation. I'm very proud of being here. Basically, transition, when we say, I don't think that way. It is rather fragile. From that point of view, I must say, Nepal is in a fragile state.
Do you agree that Nepal remains united?
In gross, I would rather say we still are united for the nation. But politically, we are severely divided. That's why our interests are deviated. We became individualistic, looking after own selfish desires. Our leaders and even we people are divided because we don't think of nation, but we think of our own interest. That's why we could not develop well, and rather, I must say, we are fragile.
What is the logic behind you saying Nepal remains fragile? Okay.
Basically, Prithvi Narayan Shah has come up with a very wise vision, rather, with a yam between two boulders. And then after, his security and foreign policy is still valid. From that point, we must praise him. But after his death, other than a few other rulers like Rajendra Lakshmi or Bahadur Shah, they did for the nation. But after that, there is none whom we should remember. Janga Bahadur, he did for his own, he was more autocratic. He emerged in Nepalese political history like Bhimsen Thapa. Bhimsen Thapa is also very much controversial, and even the historians are divided whether he was a traitor or he was a patriot. Janga Bahadur did some good things for Nepal, like returning back 4 districts, Banke, Bardia, Kailali, Kanchanpur, after serving the British. Basically, he supported against the military mutiny, the soldiers' mutiny in northern India, in Meerut area, in Delhi area. From that, he was rewarded.
Well, Dr. Bhattarai, how do you analyze the present day politics, linking it to the security? Do you agree that there is criticism that Nepal's politicians or political parties do serve some other sort of political interest? Do you see any logic behind that criticism from the general public? And what are the impacts of that observation in Nepal's overall security?
Basically, we have fought for our freedom and national integrity, our rights to be restored. Those part has started from 1950 onwards, when India was independent. Then after that wave came to Nepal also. But our each and every revolution was completed with some compromise. We compromised with the rulers, the very clever and cunning rulers who trapped the people for their own benefit. And then after we were deprived of more or less the hegemonic influence of our neighbors, basically the southern neighbors. The northern neighbor has come up now, recently after when after the Deng Xiaoping and when China opted for foreign trade and all the development take place, and then after their influence or their interest in neighbors has increased. From northern side, we had been very much victimized, or rather we were being cheated, after 1950 treaty. And after this 70 years or more, still we want to have some changes in our relations, and we have formed a eminent persons group, and that group's report is still pending. From that point, we can see or we can feel that we are still being deprived of the hegemonic influence of our neighbors.
How do you comment about the criticism over some of the international supports and assistance coming to Nepal? Do you think that some initiatives, for example, Belt and Road Initiative and Millennium Challenge Corporation, its support here in Nepal, have been unnecessarily dragged into controversy? Or do you see some sort of controversies within these initiatives? What is your analysis on that?
For the development, if we go with our indigenous support, or we can manage within the country, then it is the best, because no foreign interest will be dominating to us. But of course, any country in present world, we cannot remain aloof from the international development, and the international donors, they come up with the good faith. We must accept their support, otherwise we cannot really invest our limited resources for the huge projects. From that point of view, BRI has been, our government has already signed it. BRI is a strategic maneuver, or its strategic point of view. It is very, very serious. Serious in the sense, it is not a grand project. It is under the depth. And we have heard and seen many other countries, developing countries, they are being trapped. If we also will be trapped, then it will be really devastating for this country.
Do you see any security or development threats from southern neighbor for signing this strategic document?
Right. I will consider Pakistan case, like CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. That has started from $42 billion project. Now it has reached more than 62 or more than that. And even there is a lot of controversy in how that CPEC will implement it. The way the Pakistani government want to mobilize, and the Chinese authorities, they are trying to get from different perspective. From that point of view, there is the controversy going on. We have also opted for, but still I think nine projects have been identified, but we are not been able to decide what sort of activities we should go on with BRI project. This is one example. Like if you talk about the MCC, MCC was created by Americans when the 9/11 terrorist attack in America has happened. You know, from that there was a lot of cry from the developing countries that America should stop the petty development grant to the developing countries, rather should come up with a huge amount that will be really a tangible achievement for the developing country. From inspired by that feeling, the Americans, they started this in 2004 from Monterey Conference, and we have placed for this grant. This is a grant, MCC is a grant in 2011, and then after American accepted it. And there is a lot of controversy going on within the party, you know, within the ruling party rather, for whether we should accept this or we should not. This is the dilemma going on for the developmental, you know, we say that in one side we must opt for grant projects, and we deny this because we say it is not beneficial for us because of various reasons, because of polarism.
Do you consider MCC is not, you know, beneficial for Nepal, or you have?
I don't think there is any harm to accept the grant project. Basically, that is for the electric transmission line starting from Lopsifet to Gorakhpur or something, via Palpa and all. You know, if there is any other aspects or hidden interest of America, then we should clear it. We should clear it, and of course, American has, you know, since the money has been given by the American taxpayers' perk, then they are also accountable, and we also should be accountable. And from that point of view, ratification is necessary, that they have mentioned in the clause, and we are in dilemma. Our parliament has been dissolved. This is the case. You know, we are so much divided within us that we are not being able to identify whether this is a grant or this is a debt.
What could be the reason behind, you know, putting oneself into such dilemma?
Basically, this is a lack of knowledge, first of all, and another point is we have got a prism of different color. You know, if we have a green prism, then of course we will see everything green, and if it is red, then it will be always be red. That's why we should live on that and really go through what is correct and what is incorrect.
Well, that's really interesting, Dr. Bhattarai. Could you also share with us the, you know, Indian development perception, because you referring at the beginning that there are some other sort of influence and interest from both southern and northern neighbors. How do, you know, people in Nepal perceive the Indian support, and what is your observation about that?
Indian support, I will not say it is totally bad, but of course the Indian interest is very much heavily loaded on us. Just 2 days before, I have heard S.D. Muni and General Ashok Mehta statement in social media that in Nepal, India could not flourish its interest. And what we say here is, in Nepal, we should preserve, promote our interest. Okay. If they want to assist us in our development, that is a goodwill gesture, we'll accept it. But of course, that should be of our need, and that should fulfill our desire. If it does not suit us, then why should we accept the development project as such to promote the Indian interest in Nepal? That means totally that is the hegemonic influence, and we do not want any foreigners, any rather even the neighbors, to play in our sentiments,
also
in our emotions.
Dr. Bhattarai, that you know, the perception of few power centers here in Nepal is in line with who you referring as the experts, S.D. Muni and all. Why should Indian perception or Indian readings not be accepted the way Indians want to accept? What are your, logics?
That's why we are fragile. If we really safeguard our interest and we accept those developmental aids that is needed by us, our people, then it is fine. Otherwise, better you take your money back. We don't need. We are happy with what we have got. We must be able to say that, and our leaders must speak on this line. Unless they speak on this line, we will remain fragile and their interest will be superimposing us and we will be poor day by day. Basically, after 70 years, I will not go beyond to that. After 1950, a lot of things has happened. The Indian interest is, focused in water resources. Their interest is focused on human resources, herbs, and so many other things. Like we have heard that all Indian railways, the timbers for the railway line used to go from Nepal during the British East India Company period. That part may not be now, but still there are some other things which we have to safeguard.
Are you saying that these all Indian supports putting Nepal into some sort of trap, controlling Nepal's all development possibilities?
Basically, if somebody helps, comes for help and all, then we must think why it is coming to help us. Now we are at that stage. And unless we really assess those things, we will not find out the interest behind. And once the interest is clear, then whether you should accept or not, the question comes then after. We must emphasize on these things, and our leaders must be serious enough to look after this.
Why our leaders are not serious?
Because they have got the selfish interest, the self-desire. They want to become more rich. They want to become more powerful, remain in the system, like all the authoritarian type of leaders, they are being reached to the top position and they want to keep on capturing regime forever. After their death, they want their son or daughter to come to replace them.
Well, Dr. Bhattarai, there were also criticisms and discussions about the recent parliament dissolve, proposal by the Prime Minister. This is a case sub judice at the Supreme Court, but there were some, discussions in and around that, this happened because of the geopolitical interest from the neighbors as well. How do you observe on that?
Basically, we have noticed during our constitution promulgation in 2015, the Indian then Secretary of Foreign Affairs, the present Foreign Minister of India, Subramaniam Jayasankar, he came at the eve of the promulgation date, and there was a lot of news coming up that India does not want our constitution. That was the reality, and they had the reservation on 2-3 points, like religion, Hindu religion. They were negative with the secularism. India itself is a secular country, but they want the neighbors to remain Hindu. Of course, if the Nepalese people want, then it is okay. But there is reservation even in Nepal that the referendum has not been done. Even the monarchy has ousted hastily. Even this federalism is not acceptable to Nepal, or it is not suitable to Nepal rather. From that point of view, we didn't go to the people. Of course, there was a different teams sent to gather the feedbacks, but those feedbacks were never been considered as there was the rumor. If that is true, then it is really bad. Okay. With that point, still India has got the reservation on some of the issues, And they want to revive that, make Nepal to have U-turn what it has accepted during the constitution promulgation. This is what hegemonic influence, because this country belongs to Nepali, and we should have a right to decide our fate, not the neighbors decide our fate. That's why there is a controversy. That's why there is the dispute. Unless those sort of mentality is changed, our relations will remain strained, despite of India claiming there is people to people relation, roti beti, or bhaichara or brotherly relations and all. These are all to be said. Basically, they have got a different nation and we have got a different nation. And unless we should be given the opportunity to decide our fate ourselves, the confrontation will remain with the neighbors.
Well, Dr. Bhattarai, how do you see the interest and influence of other neighbors than southern and northern ones, especially that of the American interest in Nepal?
No, American interest is basically guided by Tibet policy. When China, they annexed Tibet into it in 1950, rather when Dalai Lama left in 1960, then after the situation in Tibet has changed. And in 60s, there was a lot of pressure from the Americans, and the Indians were imposed in Tibet. John F. Kennedy and Nehru's period was very crucial for Tibetans in that time. And that was the period when Americans directly supported the rebels, that is Khampa rebels, against China. And Nepal has to cleansing those in Mustang, Khampa rebels and all, on Chinese request. Basically, Nepal were being used by the Americans as well as Indians against China for the cause of Tibet. Those sort of things revive, it is said that history revives itself. We should be cautious about that. And China is also very much serious on this. And China wants Nepal to be very much clear about one China policy.
How can Nepal, as such, maintain its integrity, remaining out of the all interest and influences coming from any nations or neighbors around?
Basically, geopolitics is very, very sensitive for us. And we should manage our geopolitics well. We should not let our neighbors or any powers to play for and against our neighbors and even this country. We must have that sort of vision and our clear mindset to understand who is doing what. Based on that, our overall security system should be developed. Our foreign policy should be developed that way.
Well, your doctorate was in conflict management and you very closely studied about the Maoist insurgency here in Nepal, that of the 10 years in past. What is your observation about the post-conflict justice? Do you think that the victims of 10 years long conflict here in Nepal, their interests are appropriately addressed?
Basically, but transition, this TRC has been, not been well addressed because of the interest of political leaders and even the regional powers. The United Nations also, have a policy that unless the regional power gives a green signal or the United Nations also does not move on that line. The victims are not been well seen. only the main leaders, they are in the power and they are fighting for, you know, to grab the regime and all. And there is one faction, that is Nether Bikram Chand faction, still fighting, still advocating that the Maoist insurgency has not been over.
What could be the, you know, possible impact of, you know, what you are referring as the conflict in future?
The conflict in future will remain as the politics at the north center, you know, that has to be. But socio-economic development will be paralyzed. Once the socio-economic development will be paralyzed, then that will insist on further instability in politics. That means we will remain fragile more rapidly to becoming the failed state.
How can it be prevented?
It can be prevented with, you know, once you have understand that you have done a mistake, and then after you accept the other's point, then after you will have a system again reviving, and the international community will come up. They will also suggest, you know, so far till date we are sending our peacekeeping forces outside, and in that case the peacekeeping forces from other places will come to Nepal, and then after they will teach us.
Well, Dr. Bhattarai, many interesting issues you are sharing with us, but we are coming to the end of the show. Any final thoughts very quickly before we wrap this show?
Basically, I am very much, you know, disgraceful from the present political leaders, because the case is in court, Supreme Court, and you know, we are making our statements, and Parliament has been dissolved, which the Constitution has not envisioned. You know, it is beyond the constitutional provision. That means we are going to become more fragile, and that fragility will lead nothing else. It will lead to the failed state. I think we should not be failed state. That is always a big, you know, problem that I feel myself in the country.
Well, Dr. Bhattarai, thank you very much for joining our show. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
Dear viewers, time now to wrap up the show. Keep watching us. See you next week. Namaste.